Chapter 2. Gao Lang was anxious to immediately kill Qi Xiujie, but unfortunately, the imperial edict clearly stated that he should be executed the next day. If he killed him at an earlier date, he'd be defying imperial decree. But yesterday, he deliberately went to prison and told the prison official that Xie should be killed first thing tomorrow morning. The prison officially enthusiastically agreed, not daring to disobey. The next morning, when the sun had yet to rise, the prison official sent two executioners to bring Zhu Yunsheng to the Meridian Gate. The day has not yet dawned. The yang energy is less than the yin energy. If you two do the execution at this time, when this qi goes to the spring, this qi will inevitably come back to disturb you too. Zhu Sheng kneeled on the execution slab, but he wasn't panicked. The reason why the ancients required beheadings to be carried out at 12:45 p.m. was because the yang energy was most vigorous at this time. When the criminals turned into malicious spirits, they would immediately be scattered by the yang energy, unable to retaliate against the executioners. It was currently not yet 5 a.m. The atmosphere was cold and damp, giving out an inexplicable eerie feeling. The ancients firmly believed in these supernatural things, fearing that swinging the blade would immediately attach a malicious spirit to themselves. The two executioners glanced at each other and wordlessly decided to wait till the sun rose to carry out the execution. Zhu Yunsheng looked up at the sky. It was quickly approaching dawn. Li Jintian dreamed all night. He should now be awake. That's right. Those two dreams were illusions forcibly implanted in Lin Jintian's brain using his spiritual power. Gao Min was an upright person. Rebellion, adultery, betrayal, and other such scandals were against his nature. But what about it? Gao Lang had murdered hundreds of people in the Qi family, and Gao Min also secretly poisoned Qi Xiujie, destroying his body. Such a deep blood feud could only be offset by the equal extermination of the Gao family. Zhu Yunsheng always said that if the protagonist didn't provoke him, he wouldn't take the initiative to provoke them. But if the protagonist made things difficult for him, he could only pay them back 100-fold. Not only will he wipe out the Gao family, Li Jintian, Gao Min, and their son, the future emperor of Dayan, Li Shuyan, will all be ruined by his hands. Since he was occupying Qi Xiujie's body, he would grant Qi Xiujie's wishes perfectly. Zhu Yunsheng was lazy by nature, hedonistic, but he never slacked off on two things: his career and holding a grudge. While waiting, the sun slowly rose and broke through the clouds. The two executioners saw that time had almost arrived and opened the jar of liquor. After taking a few sips, they sprayed it towards the sharp blade and raised it up high. "Wait, hold the blade!" An anxious voice stopped the falling sword in the nick of time. Two executioners turned to look, then were so frightened their calves trembled. "The slave sees his Majesty the Emperor! Long live! Long live!" "Get out of my way. It's not yet 12:45. Who allowed you to carry out the execution?" Li Jintian was furious. He kicked the two men to the ground. "Reporting to your Majesty. It was an order from the Prime Minister. We slaves had to obey." The executioner crawled up and slammed his forehead in a nato. "Gao Lang." Li Jintian's eyes darkened for a moment. Then he thought further. If he could even openly defy his orders, was there anything the Gao family wouldn't do? The Qi family was once known as the most prestigious family in Dayan, Yet the head of the Qi family was always cautious and respectful in front of him. Compared to the current Gao Lang, he could simply be called humble. Not to mention the way Gao Min treated him. When he was in a good mood, he'd respond with a few sentences. When he was in a bad mood, he'd directly make a palace servant drive him away. He didn't care at all about respecting the emperor. Too much favor was really not a good thing. Now, the Gao family had a habit of disregarding imperial power. Gao Min and my younger imperial brother, were they really having an affair? When did they start? Li Jintian's mind had already been disturbed by that dream. But after three years of being together, his feelings for Gao Min had already morphed from gratefulness to true, deep love. It was difficult for him to give up on him. He decided to observe for a while. Maybe the dream was fake, groundless. As he comforted himself, he let the attendants free the bound Qi Xiujie. Zhu Chang remained kneeling on the execution slab, cupping his hands. Thank you, Your Majesty. You're treating this villain leniently for a moment, but this villain doesn't deserve this mercy. This villain's family was loyal to Your Majesty and to Da Yan. This villain's father dedicated himself day and night to Your Majesty. Yet, is there a reason for why he met such an end? But as the saying goes, if the emperor wants his courtier to die, they have no choice but to die. This villain's family surely ought to offer their necks, and this villain also doesn't dare hope to obtain a pardon. This villain now only has one wish. Please grant it, Your Majesty. His eyes were mournful, but not resentful. Even while wearing blood-stained prison garb, his noble grace was not reduced, prideful and unyielding. Seeing such a Qi Qiujie reminded him of the empress who struggled in Xuan Wang's harem but never gave in. Li Jintian's eyes flashed a bit. He looked away and asked in a hoarse voice, "What's your wish?" That dream was too real, repeatedly upsetting his strained nerves. This villain merely wants to ask, what mistake did this villain's family commit to make Your Majesty exterminated so quickly? Please, Your Majesty, let this villain die with understanding. After saying this, Zhen Sheng forcefully knocked his head, then straightened his waist and looked directly into the emperor's eyes. A taboo. Stumped by this question, Li Jintian didn't answer for a long time. The head of the Qi family had always been very cautious. He also strictly controlled his clan members. If he had not experienced the first life, Li Jintian would have never doubted the Qi family's loyalty. After he was reborn, he couldn't tolerate a slave who betrayed their master, so he collaborated with Gao Lang and Prince Li to fabricate hundreds of groundless criminal charges to frame the Qi family. Now that Qi Qiujie asked him for the truth, he really couldn't tell him the truth. That dream once again surfaced in his mind, causing his already anxious and uncertain heart to shake severely. If after he died in the last life, the Qi family had really restored the throne and preserved his bloodline, then didn't he mistakenly murder his loyal subjects? In the past life, Prince Li took advantage of the chaos to rescue him from the palace, but it was Gao Min's hand that he held, and it was Gao Min's face that he gazed at when he finally departed. Did they already have an affair in the last life? When he was reborn in this life, he gave the Gao family the greatest trust, gave Prince Li the highest authority, gave Gao Min the most honorable status, and in contrast, he wiped out the loyal Qi family. Now, Gao Lang, Prince Li, and Gao Min were fully capable of making him a figurehead and subverting his imperial power, and he'd lost the Qi family and the other influential families' support. Unexpectedly, he completely lacked the power to fight back. Thinking of this, Li Qintian broke out in cold sweat. His legs could not stop trembling, and he almost fell down. Take concubine Qi back to the Zishan palace. When he spoke again, his tone was very weak. When he saw that the servant supported him up in a very rough manner, he quickly added, "Call an imperial physician to the Zishan palace immediately. Diligently wait on him." Then he covered his face and walked away, not daring to look at the bloodstained Qi Xuejie again. Zhu Sheng soaked in the bath unconcernedly, using the hot water to wash the wounds covering his body. This body looked broken, but the inside were actually very strong. It wouldn't require a few days for it to fully recover. With Li Jinqian's command, the imperial physician didn't dare neglect him. After thoroughly taking his pulse, he wrote out a prescription and sent people to prepare it. Shen Palace originally belonged to Qi Xuejie. The furnishings were very luxurious, but because of the Qi family's collapse, it was emptied out. All of Qi Xuejie's retainers had either been killed or betrayed by him, leaving only a few cleaning maids. The breeze shifted the white gauze curtains, making the huge palace look even lonelier. Zhu Sheng draped his damp hair over his shoulders, reclining on the soft couch near the windows and staring at the first rays of sunlight spilling from the rising sun. He let out an amused smile. Li Jintian had gone back on his words and pardoned Qi Xuejie. Gao Lang and Gao Min would inevitably feel resentful of this. If Li Jintian was his normal self, he would willingly lower himself and do anything to appease them. But now suspicion filled his heart. The more the two complained, the more Li Jintian would feel apathetic. But this wasn't the end. In the future, Gao Min will put forth requests to become more involved in politics, crusade against the barbarians on the battlefield, and other such things. In the original story, Li Jintian would agree to each request and even vigorously support him. But now, Li Jintian would only suspect that the Gao family was consolidating power. Once the seeds of doubt are planted, it's difficult to uproot them. Zhu Sheng only needed to sit on the sidelines and look on as they destroyed each other. There was no need to dirty his own hands. Of course, after eliminating this group of people, he still needed to cultivate the next emperor of Dayan. He was very lazy. After completing Qi Xuejie's wish, he wanted to leave the palace and travel around the world. He had no interest in being trapped on the cold and lonely throne. The emperor needed to get up earlier than the roosters and sleep later than the dogs. He was also continuously monitored by the courtiers. It really wasn't a job a human could do. Oh right, he needed to find his lost lover again before traveling the world. I wonder who he is this time. Thinking of this, Zhu Sheng stroked his lips and smiled gently. In the throne room, Gao Lang interrogated Li Jintian in front of the other courtiers about his decision to let Qi Xuejie go. He repeatedly stressed that this was like letting a tiger return to the mountain, asking him to change his mind. The other ministers were incited by him and kneeled down to petition. Even Prince Li came forward to put pressure on Li Jintian. For the first time, Li Jintian directly felt the strong influence Gao Lang and Prince Li had among his court. The seeds of doubt that had taken root quickly grew into towering trees. He rejected Gao Lang's request to execute Qi Xuejie and stormed off. He went back to the Yangxin Palace. Gao Min was already waiting inside. He was browsing through the memorial book, occasionally stopping to write down comments with the imperial brush, while the attendant carefully laid out the tribute tea on the imperial desk, brewing it in a familiar way. This scene made Li Jinqian's pupils violently contract for a moment, but then he remembered the scene of Gao Min and himself embracing before dying in the last life. No matter what, this man was willing to accompany him to the spring. That kind of loyal friendship couldn't be faked. It was just a dream. How could events in a dream be taken serious? Gao Min and Prince Li never interact with each other. How could they be having an affair? After telling himself this, Li Jinqian finally calmed down. He slowly walked over and tried to embrace Gao Min. But Gao Min slapped him away with the account book, coldly asking, "Did you pardon Qi Xiujie?" Li Jinqian didn't respond. Gao Min continued, "Did you forget how he betrayed you and joined Shuang Wang? You killed his whole family. Beware that he will seek revenge on you." "How can he take revenge? He's the only surviving member of the Qi family, and his body was destroyed by your poison, so he can't even have children. How can he take revenge like that?" Li Jinqian tiredly rubbed his eyebrows and sighed. "He can't do anything. Let him go." He stopped himself from thinking about what the Qi family did after Shuang Wang took the throne in the last life. If that was real, his actions were equivalent to personally breaking his sharpest sword and offering his weakness for the others to take advantage of. After living 2 lives, he could never be so foolish, he thought to himself. Struggling between trust and distrust, Li Jinqian felt a major headache. Gao Min saw his discomfort, but didn't care in the slightest. He merely sneered and flung his sleeves out as he left. Looking at his retreating back, Li Jinqian felt a cold chill in his heart.